everybody.
Good morning.
Okay, that's better. Thank you, everybody. I'm sure everyone's a little tired. I think there was a couple games on last night. Something in Cleveland. I don't know. I'm kidding. I am kidding. I know it was the World Series and the Cavs. So I just want to welcome you all to our weekly FEBE. That's every week. Every Wednesday we meet here in the same location from 10 to 11 with our sponsor Dunkin' Donuts from across the street. There is one thing that I wanted to make an announcement before we get started with our presenter today. We have Global Entrepreneurship Week coming up. We have events set for the 14th, 15th, and 16th of November, and all of you are invited. You're all invited to participate in our Business Expo, as well as our FEBEs that we're having that week, as well as our the free comedian that will be here on that Monday. So there's information on your table. If you're interested in having a free booth, a vendor booth, please see Becky Hetrick or Brenna. And the other thing is Diane Helbig will also be presenting the week before to talk about how vendors can kind of make the most out of workshops, events such as that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Megan Patton from ODA Strategy, right?
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. It's so good to be here today. And I'm sorry, I'm a little froggy, so you'll hear me clear my throat a little bit today. I apologize. I am a business planning coach, management consultant, and general lover of entrepreneurship and business. I started out my career, interestingly enough, as a Peace Corps volunteer in Nepal. I was stationed there for almost 4 years, and I worked on developing, I taught English, worked on developing some teacher training programs, and at the end of my time, ended up working on curriculum development with UNICEF. So that was a lot of fun. I came back to the States and entered an MBA program. While I was spending that year applying for my MBA program, I teamed up with my brother, one of my older brothers, who was starting a company. And he said, Meg, you've got to go to business school. It's non-negotiable. I really want you to go. But while you're applying, come work with me, help me start this company, and I'll teach you more about business than you'll learn in your MBA program. He's 10 years older than me, so he had been around the block a little bit. And don't you know, he was correct. That was one of the most powerful years of my life, working with him, really in the trenches to develop this company. And unfortunately, I had made a deal with him that I was going to leave and actually go to business school, so that's what I did. Otherwise, I think it would have been fun to keep working with him. So throughout my career, I've spent time in very small consulting firms, and I've spent time in very large ones. I was with a Big Four for many years. My experience ranges from working with solopreneurs, people who are just on their own, creating a business, all the way up to Fortune 500 steel companies. So I do have a pretty big breadth of experience, which leads me to our topic today, business planning in the age of Twitter. Now, throughout my career, I've worked with lots of different types of business planning, with companies that are pulling together business plans for investment purposes, right? And those books, how many of you have ever seen one of those? You create a business plan, and it's, what is it? How many pages is it? 50? That's a pretty thin one. I've seen them up to like 150 pages, right? And they're huge, and they're beautiful, because you spend all this time working on them, and you've got gorgeous graphics and charts and graphs and blah, blah, blah. And they're gorgeous. And where do they live? On the shelf, exactly. So it doesn't serve you well as a tool for, a day-to-day roadmap, right? I call those types of business plans now bank books, okay? Because that's what they're good for. They're great for bringing on investors. They're great for taking to a bank to show the bank you know what you're doing, you understand your market, and you've got some plans. But what I'm focused on here today is helping you come up with something that you can use on a day. What's that? Oh, was that in the hall? Sorry. What you can use on a day-to-day basis to actually run your business. So it's actually creating a roadmap for you to conduct your business daily. And this isn't going to take a lot of time. We're going to just barely scratch the surface of it today. I'm just going to explain the different categories that you want to have on your one-page plan. And then when you sit down to do the thinking around this, you can come up with your first draft of a business plan in about 90 minutes. Okay, so this is a very doable type of program. Okay, this is one of my favorite quotes. The next level of success requires the next level of discipline, okay? And that makes sense, right? If we keep doing things the way that we've always done them, we're probably going to get very similar results, okay? So if we want to move our business to the next level, then it's going to require some different activity on our part and a different level of discipline. Some interesting statistics. There was a study done by a guy named Christopher Flett, and he said that approximately 10% of business owners in the U.S. actually create a plan every year. Only 10% of all business owners. How many of you in this room have a business plan? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so you're beating the odds here in this room. But of that 10%, only 10% actually write it down. Okay, they actually commit it to paper. You would not believe the amount of times I hear, oh yeah, I've got a business plan, it's all up here in my head. I know what I'm doing, right? Well, that's not really a business plan. That's good thinking, okay? So of that 1% of all U.S. businesses that actually create a plan and write it down, the success rate is something like 98.75%. So in my mind, it's worth it. Spend the time, create a plan, write it down, and your odds for being successful have just skyrocketed. So as I mentioned, some of the things I hear a lot. I've got a business plan, it's all up here in my head, right? Or I don't have time. When they're thinking of that beautiful binder that lives on the shelf, it takes too long to write. I don't have that kind of time. I got to focus on my business. I have 12 fires to put out today. How do you expect me to, pull out of my business and sit down and write something? Okay? Anyone know what that's called? Working on your business versus working in your business. Have you guys heard of that? Okay, some of you have, some of you hadn't. Working in your business is doing those day-to-day things that you have to do to run your business, okay? So you're selling your product or you're delivering your services, whatever it is your business is comprised of. Working on the business means you're taking a step back and you're taking a higher view of your business and you're looking at putting in systems and processes and procedures so that your business can run effectively, okay? Strategic planning is working on your business. Business planning is working on your business, okay? So when I hear people say that they don't have a business plan, this is what I think. I think some of these things, that they're probably not serious about their business. Or maybe this is more of a hobby and it's not going to be a real company, okay? Or that person, maybe they don't think ahead too much. Maybe they're not that great at planning ahead, okay? And I don't know where I'm going. So a lot of times when you say you don't have a business plan, the message that comes across is, I'm making it up as I go along, okay? And I think all of us have been there, and it's okay as long as you don't stay there, right? So I'm here today to help get you out of that. So again, why bother creating a plan? Well, I use the analogy of building a house. Has anybody built a house here? Okay. So did you just, immediately work with your contractor and say, yeah, put the living room here and put the dining room over here and I want 4 bedrooms? And no, you have an architect, right? You sit down and you probably pored over plans. You work the plan, you rewrite the plan, you say, no, that doesn't make sense for I want a different flow. My family dynamic is X, Y, or Z. So you create plans in conjunction with somebody else to build your dream house, okay? Why wouldn't you do the same for your business, okay? Why would you have a business and not put that same devotion into it, right? To really plan where you need to go. When you do that, then it helps ensure that any partners, investors, employees, team members are on the same page with you, okay? That you guys are all headed in the same direction. And finally, How do you know if your business is producing the results you want? So if you haven't set out what those results are going to be, how do you know if you've achieved them, right? And some of this is overly simplistic for explanation purposes, okay? So that's my big disclaimer for today. All right, so the one-page business plan is something I'm going to show you today. This was created about 20 years ago. It's been used in the entire spectrum of business, everywhere from Coca-Cola down to solo entrepreneurs. So it's a very adaptable type of business planning tool. The guy who developed it was named Jim Horan. He was a displaced CFO, kind of having a midlife little situation where he was released from a company and tried to figure out what to do next. For a couple of years, he bounced around doing fractional CFO work. So he would go in and do temporary CFO work for different companies. After a couple of years of that, what he realized was that so many companies don't plan, and they don't and those that do didn't tend to communicate or cascade their plans down to their employees. And so he started fiddling around with some ideas and ended up with the one-page business plan. And the idea is that it is a very simple process. It's just using keywords and phrases to write your plan. You're not going on and on and on with narrative. It's very versatile. It's extremely easy to understand. It captures both the strategic direction of the company as well as those tactical day-to-day actions that need to be done. Because it's so simple to use, it eliminates any excuses for not planning. Okay, like I said, you can actually craft your first draft in about 90 minutes. And finally, it is a proven tool that's been in use for the last 20 years. And as I mentioned, through all spectrums of businesses, from the very small to the Fortune 100. So why do I personally like this one-page business plan? It reminds me of my vision and mission daily. It's something easy to put in front of me to make sure that I'm knowing where I'm going all the time. How many of you have ever heard of shiny object syndrome? How many of you have ever fallen victim to shiny object syndrome? Okay? There's so many great ideas and tools and things that come across your desk, and you're thinking, oh, I should check this out. Oh, I should check this out. Well, now you've got something you can measure it against. Okay, so now in my business, when I see a shiny object, I can look at that, map it against my plan, say where would it fit in, what will it help me achieve according to what I've created, and then it's a yes or no decision. Okay, so my emotion somewhat gets taken out of it. And as excited as I might be about this shiny object, I can say, well, it doesn't fit in with what I've set out for this year, maybe next year. Okay, and I can put that in a parking lot. You can use this one-page business plan in a number of ways. It can serve as a complete business planning tool for a small to mid-sized business, companies, nonprofit organizations. It can serve as a project plan. Okay, so if you've got a project that you're looking to undertake that's fairly complex, you can use this tool to help you manage that. We've had clients that have used it as a career planning tool, or in some cases even a life planning tool. And as we go through, hopefully you'll see the connections there. So, depending on where you went to school or where you've worked in the past, everybody has different definitions of vision and mission, right? How many times have you heard people say, well, my vision statement is this and my mission is this? What's the difference between your mission and your vision again? How do I know if I'm really writing a vision statement or if it's a mission? I mean, I've dealt with that confusion a lot throughout my career. So what Jim Horan did is he said, I'm not going to waste time trying to define things that people are going to have to remember. Instead, we're just going to ask some questions, okay? So right there these are the 5 sections of the one-page business plan, and each section answers a question. You have this in front of you. I've passed out a 2-page little cheat sheet for you here. So the first section is in defining your vision, and you answer the question, what am I building? Okay, what is this company going to look like in 3 to 5 years? And I put a time limit on that because 3 to 5 years is a realistic time frame. Any closer, and it's just not as aspirational. Any farther out, and it becomes unrealistic. So 3 to 5 years has proven to be a really good time frame. And of course, that will roll as you update this plan every year. So you're going to answer things like, what are we building? What are our products and services? Who's my target market? What are the dimensions of my company? And by that I mean, what are our revenue goals? What are our employee goals? So it might look like, by the end of 2019, build Colorado Window Company into a $1.5 billion home renovation company focusing on providing replacement windows and blah, 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 I don't know, to home remodelers. Okay, so you can just kind of start thinking what it might look like for you. And so putting a target date, size of your company, main products, ideal customers, and some dimensional things around employees, if you'd like. That's not a necessary. Then we move into the mission statement. And the mission answers the question, why does this company exist? Okay, what's our purpose for being here? Why do I have passion around my company? And hopefully, how many of you feel passion around your company? Oh my, okay. But why do you get up every day? Okay, this is where you'll capture some of that. What am I providing in my company that's unique or special? Where do I have any competitive edge in the marketplace? Pull these things out and think about them, okay? What do you want to be known for long term? What's your legacy? Okay, this is where you can get into some legacy issues. And who's your, knowing who your ideal customer is or your ideal client is, what promise are you making them? Okay? Any questions so far? I'm throwing a lot at you because we're going to go through this super quickly, but what questions do you have so far on vision or mission? None. Okay. So then the next section is objectives. And objectives, this is a lot of times what I'll say is, somewhat the meat of your business plan. This answers the question, what business results am I going to measure this year? Okay? So it's time bound into this year, this next business cycle. You're looking at what business results you're going to measure. So what are those vital statistics that you need to keep your thumb on all throughout the year, whether it's monthly, quarterly, or yearly, to know whether you're successful or not? So what might some of those vital statistics be? Money, right? So sales, revenue. What else? Cost. Okay, what else? Any other business results we measure? So we've got sales, we've got response time, we've got giving back. Customer satisfaction. Okay. What else?
I was going to say that returning customers.
Returning customers. A lot of people that I know actually measure how many customers are coming back. Okay. Or repeat clients. Any other things? How about keeping expenses below a certain percentage? Okay, how about gross margin, right? So there's a lot of business results that we can measure. And I encourage you to think of those top ones that are really critical to the health of your company and those that you want extra focus on, okay? The next section is called strategies. And these are not time-bound. This is how am I going to build my business over time, okay? So when you have strategies, you're looking at what are the business-building activities that I should be involved in that will help grow my company, okay? These could be things like, and these aren't just one-off projects. These are sort of all-encompassing strategies. So for instance, if I'm trying to become nationally known, then I would need to give lots of speaking presentations. I would need to write articles and publish a book. okay, as an example. What are some other strategy examples? Yes?
Online presence, for sure.
What's that?
Have an
Have an online presence, right. And so you could have an online presence through, and you want to find a couple of ways to do that. So develop an online presence through an interactive website, blog postings, and videos, something like that. So you're going to explain out what you're trying to do. And I always tell people here, and I want you to write this down, when you think of a strategy, you're going to take that business building activity, like online presence, and then put 3 hows around it. So how, and how are you going to do that? Because if it's just one how, then it belongs in the next category, action plan. So if it's just create an interactive website, that's not a strategy, that's an action plan. Okay? So write down that how, and how by strategies. You want 3 ways to do something. So if you look through the rest of these bullet points, this is really, you're looking at potential sources of revenue, different service lines, new product offerings, strategic alliances that you might possibly making. This is where you can talk about things like the culture of your company. What are you trying to establish in terms of your company values and culture? What type, you might capture something around skill development and learning in this section. Okay, so all of those types of things that just build the business over time. Okay, and then we move into action plans. This is the final section of your plan, and this talks about what is the work to be done this year. So now we're back again into this year. We have 3 time-bound sections in our business plan. The first section, the vision statement, is a 3 to 5 year timeline. So that's time-bound. Your mission doesn't have an expiry date, right? Until you fundamentally change what you're doing, your mission is why you exist. Okay? So that's not going to change year to year. Your objectives are the business results you're measuring this year. So that is time-bound. Strategies are not time-bound in that they're business building activities over time. As you've accomplished those strategies, you can take them off and create new ones, okay? And then the action plans are the final time-bound section. That is representing the work that you're going to do this year, okay? And action plans, it's more than just a to-do list. This isn't a task list that you're going to be checking off every week. It's more the business building projects or infrastructure projects. So, for example, one action plan might be secure a new building for my office, or build a corporate headquarters, or renovate our office. Could be write a book. It could be hire a product line manager. It could be create a learning management system for my company. So there's lots of different, these are all business building projects that have multiple steps and tasks within them, right? So that is your one-page business plan. How many of you think that's simple? How many of you think it's too simple? Can't be this easy.
Can you get it down to like one question?
You don't have to answer all the questions under each section. That just is supposed to, kind of jog your thinking a little bit. But good point. So you pull it all together on the second page. And this is where, truly, you can get it on one page. Okay? The one page, now if you are managing a team of people, I think it is critically important for you to be able to cascade your plan down, okay? Because it's all well and good if the owner of the company or the CEO has a plan. But we need to share that plan, right? You need to share your vision with your team, okay? There's a cloud-based version of this. You can do this in Word. You can order Jim Horan's book off Amazon, the One-Page Business Plan. There's lots of ways to do it, but one of the great things is there's a cloud-based solution that you can go in and you can hook your whole team in there together. So let's say you've got a plan for the company, you've got a plan for accounting or finance, marketing, operations, engineering, product services. You can create this so that each person on your team has a plan. They're all hooked together and you see the relationships, okay? Now, you can do all the business planning in the world that you want, right? What's magical about business planning? Does anybody know? Execution. Yes, very good. Execution. Execution is where it all comes together. So if you're not, and so how would you execute a plan? Anybody know? How do you actually execute a plan? Just do it. But you've got to track it too, right? So I encourage you, when you finish filling this one-page business plan out, set time aside in your calendar. Actually go into your own calendar and make appointments with yourself to work on this. Because monthly, you're going to be wanting to track your numbers, right? Those objectives, those business results that you're measuring. You want to make sure you have them. And I would put them all in one place. Yeah, I know you've got them in your accounting system somewhere, right? And they're going to show up on your financials, some of them. But really focus on keeping, I would keep a separate spreadsheet and just have tabs for each of your objectives and track them monthly. I would go into your action plans and write little project reports on each of these. And I'm not suggesting that you do hours and hours of work to maintain this, but book an hour, an hour a month in your calendar to update your numbers and to check progress against your action plans, okay? And really use that calendaring function to help you implement this. And again, how many of you is anybody in here solopreneurs? They're just you and your company? Okay. And then how many of you have teams? Okay. So solopreneurs, see if you can find an accountability partner, okay? Somebody who's either, maybe in this group or another friend that you have or a business coach, somebody like that, that will meet with you possibly monthly. Have a phone conversation. How are you doing on your plan? How are you doing on your plan, right? Have that conversation. It keeps you accountable. For those of you who have teams, write this plan and share it with your executive team, okay? Share it with your team so that you can keep each other accountable, all right? And if you need any hints or help doing that, please, give me a call. So I want you to all stay motivated, right? Start with your vision, build a great company. When you have a plan, and when that plan is in writing, there can be no question as to where you're going, right? It's your directional arrow. And then finally, keep working on your plans, answer those questions, brainstorm additional ones, fill this out. If you need any help, you can sign up for a private session with me. I'll put a sign-up sheet on this table. I'm happy to talk to you on the phone, help you with your plan. If you need more than just, a few minutes or a half an hour or so, I'll encourage you to work with me. Otherwise, I would love to just give you some information and feedback. I think that covers it. Did I do it in just 30 minutes? All right. Any questions? What questions can I answer for you? Yes?
So you keep talking about
Okay. I would. The other beauty of this is that so this is paper, right? Online, it's, I can send you a Word doc if you're interested. Okay, no concrete is involved here, right? So absolutely, set a shorter time frame that makes sense for you and be in it a lot, and especially in startup mode, you're going to be tweaking. And your mission might sound great today, and you're moving along for a few months, and you're like, that's not at all what we're doing, right? So absolutely, it's changeable. Good question. Yes? That would,
Strategy or plan?
it would depend. It could either be a strategy or a plan. So one could be, the way that it would fit into a strategy would be something along the lines of, see, you're putting me on the spot here, trying to create something. But in a strategy, it would be gain support and knowledge through attending networking functions, being part of a group, creating accountability, something like that. So the FEBE would fall into that. Or as an action plan, it could be an objective. So as an action plan, it could be, find networking groups to attend, and FEBE's one of those. As an objective, you could say attend a minimum of 35 FEBE meetings per year. And sometimes when you're tracking that, it forces you to come more, right? So it depends where it falls in importance to you, how you want to describe it on your plan. Yep. Another question.
Deal with that and how to move forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is one tool to use to help bring you together, okay? And I would recommend, if you're sort of 50-50 partners, I would recommend you each do this on your own, go through the process of kind of brainstorming out a draft plan, and then come together and share your plans together. See where there are similarities and see where you are kind of diametrically opposed. So if you're looking at a discussion over resources, again, it kind of goes back to two things. One, the business results that you're trying to measure so that you're hitting your vision. And then number two, the strategies that you've developed for how we can grow this business over time. And so if there's only $1,000 available and it's either going to go to, what did you say?
In-person networking groups or online?
Right, or online search engine or in-person networking groups, it at least gives you a tool to have a discussion and say, well, according to our strategy of getting known more in our local community, that will support the networking. If you're trying to build, a national presence, it might be the search engine. I mean, but you have to have discussions, Yes?
We actually had that for Go Alone.
Yeah. And another thing that you can say is that let's do X for 6 months and measure the results. So let's say, you have a passion around coming to FEBE and other networking organizations. Say, let me do this for, 4 months, 6 months. See what results we're getting. And then come back and have this conversation. But it gives you a tool, and if you can put it into a logical format like the business plan template, then you've got something to talk about, right? No, you're not convinced? Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's great. Any other questions? Yes.
You're working in a team without it taking away from their particular.
Okay, and that's excellent. This is actually a great tool for using on teams because not only does it share, and what you might do is you might actually put each person in your team through a develop your own plan that supports your plan, right? So they're not going to go off in all kinds of different directions because ultimately what they're trying to do needs to support the vision of either the head of the team or the head of the company, okay? But it engages each person. So I was called into a company that had, they were experiencing some pretty significant turnover with some key people. And when we got in there and we started talking to people, it turned out that those key people didn't think they were key people. They thought they were just sort of schmoes that came to work every day and they got a paycheck and nobody really cared if they were there or not. But management thought they were pretty key people. So huge disconnect. We were able to engage those people. We were luckily we were able to come in before they actually quit. They were sort of like disgruntled. They wanted to quit. They had lost some other key people earlier. So we were able to come in and actually salvage the relationship because we gave all of the people on the team a plan. And so suddenly they're thinking, wow, I'm not just a schmo, I'm actually a contributor to this team, and here's where I fit. And these are the business results that I'm responsible for. And these are the strategies that I'm going to employ to support this other stuff. So once you get the people on the team, the lower level people engaged, suddenly they've got purpose, right? And suddenly they feel like, wow, I do matter. And ultimately, at the end of the day, what do people want? They want to matter, right? It's more important than a paycheck. It's more important than, awards or whatever. They want to feel important, and they want to feel like they matter to the organization. So giving each person on your team a plan is an excellent way to start that, okay? Other questions?
People feel important.
Absolutely. I think it's probably the number one thing in business in my mind, is make people feel important. You want to make your customers feel important. You want to make your employees feel important and valued. It's huge. And if we can focus on just that, chances of being successful increase dramatically. Good, very good point.
Plus, the employees tend to be more productive, more loyal, less turnover.
Absolutely.
It's cyclical.
Yeah. I mean, employee engagement is something you hear a lot about these days. And, there's consultants who specialize in employee engagement, and they'll come out and they'll charge you $1 gazillion to get your employees engaged. Guess what, guys? You can do it. You can do it. You can look people in the eye and say, thank you. This week I noticed you did X, Y, and Z. That really means a lot. I appreciate your effort. Last night you were here till 7 o'clock. Wow. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for that extra time. Buy a pizza, buy some donuts. You don't have to send people on all expense paid trips to the Caribbean. You can just be honest, show gratitude, okay? And that's how you engage your employees. Share your plans. Let them know where they fit in the company structure, not just on an org chart, but why what they do matters. Why, if they weren't doing their job, your company wouldn't be as good, okay? Because then people feel like, oh, I better come to work. They're counting on me, right? Okay, anything else? All right.
Thank you.
Absolutely.